Oh man, when I would get up at church to do the scripture reading,
Yeah.
my left leg would be shaking so hard behind the podium.
Oh,
Uh,
same. Yes.
and that level of fear now in my life, I would frankly, especially within the safety of it, I would love to experience that level of fear with that level of safety.
You are listening to Two Friends, Two Poems, the podcast where friends read poems to each other just to see what happens. My name's Tom. This was my idea. And today, me and Paul read a portion of Godfather Death by the Brothers Grimm before popcorn reading Anne Sexton's take on fairy tale. And to keep things fresh, Tom reads a poem by Paul and vice versa. All right, here we go.
Yeah, it's intense. It's hard to be in front of people and read.
Yeah.
You did that too a lot.
I developed an ability to read out loud without understanding what I was saying at all. And I think that comes from reading scripture partly,
Yeah.
but learning the way it's supposed to sound, depending on the audience you're in front of. And then also from being an actor and auditioning, some auditions you're more prepared for than others, and you just have to make a choice and stick with it.
Yeah. The way it's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
I got to where I really loved being the liturgist or the person reading scripture at church.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that I could read something with tone that communicated the opposite thing. So, I wasn't thinking about talking about this. There was one time in particular where I think it was the reading of the dry bones and from Ezekiel.
Okay.
And it says like Ezekiel at one point says like, Lord, you know. And I really worked on and rehearsed ahead of it, reading it in the most doubtful way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not an expression of faith to say, Lord, you know.
Right.
And I had people react to it. They were like, you really read scripture differently than anyone else. That was like the extent of it.
That's my little trick of the day. If you're not sure how to read it, play the opposite. I don't know how it will apply to our selection today, but we've invited Anne Sexton back to the podcast.
Anne Sexton has been very gracious to come back.
Yeah, it occurred to me as we've been doing these episodes that I've read some great poetry and then just moved on from it really fast. And I don't want to, I want to spend some time with the stuff that's resonating. And that last episode, definitely the Anne Sexton poem. Or, yeah, is it a poem?
Is it a poem?
Yeah. So I was thinking about, I might read just a little bit of the Brothers Grimm version.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can read Anne Sexton. This is a portion of Godfather Death by the Brothers Grimm. A poor man had 12 children and had to work day and night in order just to feed them. Thus, when the 13th came into the world, not knowing what to do in his need, he ran out into the highway, intending to ask the first person whom he met to be the godfather. The first person who came his way was our dear God, who already knew what was in his heart. And God said to him, "Poor man, I pity you. I will hold your child at his baptism and care for him and make him happy on earth." The man said, "Who are you?" "I am God." "Then I do not wish to have you for a godfather," said the man. "You give to the rich and let the poor starve." Thus spoke the man, for he did not know how wisely God divides out wealth and poverty.
Wow.
Then he turned away from the Lord and went on his way, Then the devil came to him and said, "What are you looking for? If you will take me as your child's godfather, I will give him an abundance of gold and all the joys of the world as well." The man asked, "Who are you?" "I am the devil." "Then I do not wish to have you for a godfather," said the man. "You deceive mankind and lead them astray." He went on his way, and then Death, on his withered legs, came walking toward him and said, "Take me as your child's godfather." The man asked, "Who are you?" "I am Death, who makes everyone equal." Then the man said, "You are the right one. You take away the rich as well as the poor, without distinction. You shall be my child's godfather." Death answered, "I will make your child rich and famous, for he who has me for a friend cannot fail." The man said, the man said, "Next Sunday is the baptism. Be there on time." Death appeared as he had promised and served as godfather in an orderly manner.
In an orderly manner.
Yeah. There's so many phrases in that are just
Hell yeah.
crazy.
Alrighty.
Is that, you want to just go for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
We can do it. We can do it as many times as we want.
Hurry, Godfather Death, Mr. Tyranny. Each message you give has a dance to it, a fish twitch, a little crotch dance.
A man, say, has 12 children and damns the next at the christening ceremony. God will not be the godfather, that skeleton wearing his bones like a broiler or his righteousness like a swastika. The devil will not be the godfather, wearing his streets like a whore. Only Death, with its finger on our back, will come to the ceremony.
Death, with a one-eyed jack in his hand, makes a promise to the 13th child. "My godchild, physician you will be, the one wise one, the one never wrong, taking your cue from me. When I stand at the head of the dying man, he will die indelicately and come to me. When I stand at his feet, he will run on the glitter of the wet streets once more." And so it came to be.
Thus, this doctor was never a beginner. He knew who would go, he knew who would stay. This doctor, this 13th but chosen, cured on straw or mid-ocean. He could not be elected, he was not the mayor. He was more famous than the king. He peddled his fingernails for gold while the lepers turned into princes. His wisdom outnumbered him when the dying king called him forth.
Godfather Death stood by the head, and the jig was up. This doctor, this 13th, but chosen, swiveled that king like a shoebox from head to toe, and so, my dears, he lived. Godfather Death replied to this.
"Just once I'll shut my eyelid, you blundering cow. Next time, godchild, I'll wrap you under my ankle and take you with me." The doctor agreed to that. He thought, a dog only laps lime once. It came to pass, however, that the king's daughter was dying. The king offered his daughters in marriage if she were to be saved. The day was as dark as the Führer's headquarters.
Godfather Death stood once more at the head. The princess was ripe as a tangerine, her breasts burred up and down like a cat. "I've been bitten, I've been bitten," cried the 13th, but chosen, who had fallen in love and thus turned her around like a shoebox.
Godfather Death turned him over like a camp chair and fastened a rope to his neck and led him into a cave. "In this cave," murmured Godfather Death, "all men are assigned candles that inch by inch number their days.
Your candle is here, and there it sat, no bigger than an eyelash."
The 13th but chosen jumped like a wild rabbit on a hook and begged it be relit. His white head hung out like a carpet bag, and his crotch turned blue as a blood blister.
And Godfather Death, as it is written, put his finger on his back for the big blackout, the big no.
I'll have a beer. I'll have a cigarette.
So how about you go? You go first?
Sure. Does this have a title?
I have a Glock.
I have a Glock. Okay, this is I have a Glock. I have a Glock, a glizzy, if you will. I also have knives taped to my windowsills. I have hollowed Bibles with 9mm rounds in them placed in every room by militant Gideons. I have a laptop that sends incriminating vids for blackmail if I'm silent for 2 days. I release a paper trail. There are the 22 rounds I will use for trade and barter. You think the economy is rough, Coconut? It can always get a little harder. I have trained assassins guarding me, but in case they get distracted, I have 3,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate triggered and ready where I packed it. I got birds on the line. I can call in a bone. I got fast movers and J-dams at the tap of my phone. There's a 50 in my cupola, a bazooka on my shoulder, and when worst comes to worst, a glizzy in my holster. That's so fun.
Thank you.
Out loud. And case in point, my thing where I just said like the trick is to make just sound like you know what you're saying. What is J-dams?
So Colin, these are all like things from Vietnam, actually.
Okay.
So a bird on the line is you can call in an airstrike. Same thing with call in a bone. Fast movers and J-dams. Certain kinds of bombs that will spread out everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, I think I briefly mentioned it. My deep annoyance at like there's a few points where I think we knew Trump would win this election. The obvious one was when he got shot and his ear got a scratch on it. And then when Harris was bragging about having a Glock when she clearly had all of this other power around her, but felt the need to play a game to get voters who were obviously not going to vote for her. She should have and could have said something to appeal to other people. But she said, I have a Glock. She didn't appeal to our better natures or anything like that anyway.
Absolutely.
And so here we are.
I guess the poem you're going to read that I wrote is called Lake Lanier.
Called Lake Lanier.
Yeah.
The dirt stays on you. The paper mill smell, the cows, mesquite wood on fire, the pride. They said don't mess with it. They say the lake is haunted around those parts. It's the lake people mean around here when they say something like, we're heading to the lake. It's the lake that needs no name, but it has one. And there are ghosts under the water, families flooded alive to make way for realtor commissions on the 4th of July, secrets that slither out of the mud in the light of the booms, aware only of survival and death and nothing between. Those ghost slugs find their way to the light where they can grow. Of the lake, not in the lake, all the same lake. As new mothers and fathers and children skim the surface in various recreational pleasure machines, there are fish forming armies and waiting. Secrets in the lake none want to hear. All the bubbles formed in Lake Lanier.
This has been another episode of Two Friends, Two Poems, the podcast where friends read poems to each other. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support it or just help Tom pay his rent, head over to twofriends2poems.buzzsprout.com. Go write a poem.
I'll have a beer. Cool. have a beer.